Okay, hello guys. We're going to go ahead and record the information for this week's assignment. So before we get into what the actual assignment is, let's go over the materials. You're going to need a piece of paper, a ruler, a coin or a bottle cap of some sort, basically something that'll make a very small circle. You're going to need a pencil. You can have colors of any kind of colors that you want, but you don't really need them for the assignment. It's just not a mandatory thing. It can be black and white if you want to leave it black and white. I'm not going to be grading on that. Now, once you have those, we'll be able to move on to the actual assignment itself. So this assignment focuses on what's called a stamp. I know that many of you are going to be a little bit too young to recognize what these are, but some of you will know. So these are postage stamps. These are both examples. I have dinosaurs. Who's surprised? Nobody's surprised. I have dinosaurs. Now, postage stamps, if we zoom in, I'm going to go ahead and pull this one forward. If we zoom in, postage stamps have these little curled edges. Now, postage stamps are used to mail things out via the actual mail. So if you want to ship something to Australia, or if you want to ship something to your friend, right now, this is a great time to actually be using postage stamps to learn how to use the mail, because there's no real urgency for something to get there right now. So postage stamps, these particular stamps, these are for what's called forever stamps. That means that they will always work regardless of anything else, regardless of what changes, as long as it's going through USPS. Now, these are USPS stamps. Now, the USPS, unfortunately, is having some issues right now, so we don't know how long they're going to last. But regardless of what kind of stamp you get, they're almost always going to have these very traditional little curled edges. I'm going to zoom in right here so you can see these little curled edges. You can see it more on the white paper around the outside edge than anything else. Like I said, mine are dinosaurs. Woo, dinosaurs. Now, how we are going to make ours and what our topic is going to be for ours is going to be in regards to having a stamp and designing a stamp in honor of an artist. Now, again, we're doing postage stamps, so you could do it either portrait or landscape. It all depends on what artist you're trying to do. Now, in my case, I'm not entirely sure which artist I'm going to go through just yet. The first thing you're going to want to do is to make sure that you have a nice, even-sized rectangular shape. Now, when you're measuring out a smaller rectangle, you want to line your ruler up, the top edge of your ruler, up with the top edge of your paper. This is going to make what's called a right angle, or a 90-degree angle. You're going to go straight down. Doesn't matter where you place it. I'm not really measuring. As you can see, I'm not measuring. I did not measure how far this way it is. It's a little bit over the center of the paper. That's fine. It's not going to be a big stamp. So don't worry about making it giant, okay? You're making more just a general rectangular shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be centered. I'm not measuring on that. You're at home. I'm not at your house. I'm not measuring to see if it's centered. Okay? You just want, what I am going to see when you show it to me is whether or not it's a rectangle. Okay, so, but as long as you line it up with the top edge of your paper, as long as you line it up with the edge of your paper, it's going to make a nice, neat rectangle. Now, like I said, I'm going to get rid of the second paper from down under here. That's being in the way. Regardless of what size you decide to make your stamp, you want to make sure that it's a rectangle. Okay, because all stamps are rectangles. Now, this is very different from the stamps that we did before spring break, where you cut things out or you used a block to make the stamp. This is a different type of stamp. Okay? Now, what you're going to do at this point, once you have this, you're going to draw a slightly larger square. It can be anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1 inch wider than your initial drawing. So I'm going to go ahead, just so you guys can see the whole picture within the frame, I'm going to go ahead and go 1/2 inch. And this time I am measuring. You don't have to keep the 1/2 inch, but I like to measure the 1/2 inch. This time I am measuring. As you can see, I am measuring that 1/2 inch mark as best I can from around the camera, because everything's all wobbly and I have 18 billion wires in my face right now. And then I'm going to go very lightly and draw my line across. And you're going to go a 1/2 inch around, all the way around your entire rectangle. And that's why I said it doesn't really matter where you place your rectangle, because it's always going, you just want to make sure that you don't place it right on the edge. As long as it's not right on the edge of your paper, you should be fine. But like I said, you have to make sure that your project is an actual rectangle, or else it's going to end up really weird. Now you could also measure it. You could be, in this particular case, mine was about 4 1/4, 4 1/2. Yeah, 4 1/4. And then this one is about 6 1/4, a little bit over. But the point is not that it has to be even, but so much that it needs to be a rectangle. So whatever size you decide to do doesn't matter. What matters is the actual shape. Now you do at least 2 marks for each measurement. Those 2 marks will help you to line up your ruler to create your even line. Now this is not exactly even, but it's still going to work for the sake of this project. This is very, very forgiving in terms of getting it done. Now if you want extra security to make sure that it lined up properly, you can line it up with the edge of your paper and make your marks like that. Now, in terms of creating that special scalloped edge, this edge right here, in order to create the idea of this edge on your stamp right here, that we're going right here, this is where your coin is going to come into play. Now, depending on what size you did for the edge of your paper, depends on what size your circle needs to be. If you use a really big circle, it's going to change how it looks in comparison to using a smaller circle. Will it still work? Yes, it'll still give that general idea. Whatever you decide to do is up to you. I'm going to go ahead and use the penny. But again, you don't have to use the penny. You can use whichever one you want. I'm going to go ahead and line it up in the corner and trace the edge of the coin. Line it up in the corner. Trace the edge. And I'm going to do this all the way around on all 4 corners of my stamp. Now, obviously, if it was in class, I'd be just letting you use whatever you had available. But unfortunately, we're not in class right now, so we're just going to wing it. We're not going to measure exactly. It just needs to be close enough. You want to put the coin so it's about halfway in to that little circle. And it doesn't have to be exact all the way around. It could be however many spaces you want. You could do 3 on one side, 4 on the other. Now, obviously, if I was actually drawing this, then I would, and if I was actually taking my time with this, I could do a lot more detail. But I'm not really going to do that. That one didn't have enough space for another go. So I'm going to go ahead and scooch this over. And I'm going to move this one over just a little bit, erase that, and center it in between the 2. Obviously, like I said, you could go even, start in the middle, and put it to the outside edge. Just 1, 2, 1, 2. And that'll make it just a little bit more even. If you really want to go super detailed with it, it doesn't have to be exact. The idea is to get the general shape of your stamp, not for it to be absolutely perfect, okay? Now, once you have your stamp drawn out, you can go in with pen and make it more detailed and clean up your lines a little bit. You can round off the edges however you want to do it. So if you want to go ahead and freehand it, you can, and just kind of fill it in with pen if you want. I'm going to go ahead and just go over one section so you can see how this would go. Like I said, you can round off the edges if you want, but it's not 100% necessary for you to do that. Now, once you have your stamp made, like I said, I only did one side just so you guys can get the general idea. Once you get your stamp made, on the inside, you're going to draw a picture to honor an artist. What artist you decide to do, that's up to you. It could be any artist. I am going to go ahead and make one for Bob Ross. But whoever you decide to make one for, that's your choice. There's lots of different artists out there. There's Leonardo da Vinci and Artemision Teleschi and Frida Kahlo and Michelangelo. All sorts of artists, and you can look up artists as you need. Now, I will also accept Picasso, but I'm going to still expect to see a lot of detail in that work, even if it's just that way. Now, the only artist I'm going to go ahead and say no to is Jackson Pollock. Now, the only reason I'm saying no to Jackson Pollock is because that would just make a mess in your houses, and we'd rather not do that. You can otherwise use whatever artist you'd like, including video game artists or styles and stuff like that. You can even do cartoons if you want to do cartoons, because cartoonists are artists. However, I do want to see the name of who you decide to do in the bottom right-hand corner in a little square. A little rectangle, I mean. That pencil just died. Let me go a different one. Okay, you can do it in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to go ahead and do Bob Ross. But whoever you decide to do, that is up to you. Now, let's say, for example, you want to do Hayao Miyazaki, and you want to focus on Miyazaki films from Studio Ghibli. That's perfectly fine, but I want to see the name of that artist down in that corner. So if you don't know who that artist is, who makes the game, who makes the movie, who makes the show, don't use them. Choose a different artist. Okay? Unless you know who exactly makes it and you can put that name, then once you can put the name down there, that's when you can actually switch. Now I'm gonna make mine, like I said, I'm gonna be making this to model for Bob Ross. So in this case, it doesn't have to be overly complex. Again, you guys are in middle school. I'm not expecting you guys to actually be the artist. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be beautiful. It's not going to be spectacular. It's not going to be anything like that. I want you to have fun decorating these in terms of who you think the artist is and what you know about the artist. Now, in this case, for Bob Ross, obviously he painted a lot of landscapes. And I'm going to go with the frame that he's most known for, and that's for having a canvas. And I'm going to go ahead and do the rectangle for the canvas. I'm going to draw a little easel behind it or underneath it. And like I said, I'm just freehanding this very quickly just for the sake of this tutorial. I'm not making it overly detailed. If you want to make it super detailed, make it super detailed. That's up to you. I'm not going to be pushing you to make it super complex. So I'm going to go ahead, and in this case, I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this. I'm going to put a little table off to the side and put a cup. And I'm going to put some paintbrushes. Okay. Now again, it doesn't have to be in color. It can be. It doesn't have to be. Okay. So my lines are probably not that great right now, but I'm just drawing very, very quickly just so you can get the general idea. Now, with Bob Ross himself, I'm going to go ahead and add him to the picture. In the case of a shoulder, an arm, I'm going to go ahead and give him a sleeve. And I'm going to go ahead and add his traditional paint palette. I'm going to go ahead and put that circle around his thumb. Put his thumb out through there. And make a really big paint palette to take up most of the screen right here. And go ahead and erase the extra space. Like I said, I'm drawing this very quickly because this is just a matter of making the example for the tutorial video. It's not meant to be a full-fledged art piece for me. I'm going to put some blobs, which I could add color to later if I wanted to. Probably put that a little bit too short, too low, too high, I mean. Let's lower the thumb a little bit. Bring that up. There we go, that looks a lot better. Then I'm going to go ahead and add the neck and his crazy hair. Now for his crazy hair, his afro, I can do a lot more detailed, but I don't really feel like it. So we're going to go with a lot of swirls and curls. Because I do, for those of you that are watching the YouTube video and aren't aware, I am currently in the middle of a Zoom meeting with some kids from my class who, if they want, I will go ahead and unmute so that they can scream hello to you and get included in the recording. If you would like to unmute yourself right now and say hello and get recorded in the video, feel free to do so. I don't know if they picked you up, but well, at least you tried. Okay, so now that I have my general Bob Ross sort of idea right here, I'm going to go ahead and erase just a little bit there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a little mountain. Another mountain. Because he loves his mountains. And a stream. And let's put some trees. Now, like I said before, you don't absolutely have to have color. I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit of color in here. Okay, one of my students would like for me to read a message. Nope, it's not there. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of color. I'm going to put some leaves on those trees, shall we? As you can see, I'm using a bunch of different types of markers, including highlighters. That's okay, ain't nothing saying that we can't. Little bushes over here. I know that it looks blue right now. It's because it is blue right now. But I'm going to go over it with that yellow and green highlighter real quick, and that'll change the color pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and add that blue there. Once I go over it with the green highlighter, it's going to change it into a darker green. And there we go. It's a very quick, very simple, not overly detailed art piece focused on Bob Ross. I don't have a brown with me, or I would go ahead and add brown. Like I said, you don't have to make it overly complex. You don't have to make it overly detailed. How you decide to do that is up to you. And you can use any tools that you have available. The reason I decided to go ahead and cut down on what I had and what tools I have available and what colors I'm using is specifically because not everybody has the tools available right now to add all sorts of details. Remember, you can use whatever characters and whatever artist you want, as long as it comes from an artist and you can put the name on it. Now, again, you don't have to actually outline or anything like that, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but you just have to try. I highly recommend going to a website like Wikipedia, looking up an artist, looking at their artwork, and getting an idea of what you want to do before you start drawing. But other than that, that's the end of this week's project. That's all you have to do. It is not overly complex. It should not take you that long. This did not take me any more than the 20 minutes that I took to record it. And you can go ahead and, like I said, you can color it how you want. You can use colored pencils or markers or highlighters like I did. And you can go ahead and trace it with a pen or if you want to, but it's not absolutely necessary. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and hopefully we'll talk to you guys later. And you take care. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon.